This Ask Energy question comes from Jared, and Jared is wondering why he gets more constipated when traveling. Well, I will answer that question, but let me actually come back a little bit more. Let's just bring this a little bit more in general with constipation, because actually a lot of athletes do get constipated. Nobody ever likes talking about it, but it doesn't just have to be during travel, although I do see incidences or higher incidences of constipation during travel. So let me talk about constipation in general first. So constipation, it's not normal, but it does happen, right? So, what are some strategies to reduce just general constipation throughout your lifetime outside of travel? Well, first thing, be sure to drink enough fluid, especially water. Water helps things move in the system. And unfortunately, a lot of athletes are walking around dehydrated. So, what I normally recommend is if you are constipated, increase your water only intake by 1 liter. So, whatever you're drinking, add another, or however much you're drinking of fluid or water per day, add 1 more liter to that. That will definitely help. The second thing is fiber. So we often don't really look at fiber in terms of really digestive health, and we should be, right? Because fiber is uber important for digestive health, especially with constipation. Now, there are two types of fiber, soluble and insoluble fiber. Usually the combination of both will help constipation, although sometimes more insoluble fiber will help a little bit more. But that said, what I also find with most athletes is not enough of us are actually eating enough fiber. So that could also help speed things through a little bit and help reduce constipation or get rid of constipation. So eat more fruits and vegetables and beans and nuts and seeds. Okay. The third thing is really looking at there's one specific fiber called psyllium husk. And psyllium husk is literally just the husk of the psyllium plant, right? They make it in powder format. So it is a supplement. It's a powder format. This is my go-to for healthy bowel movements, for helping constipation. It is amazing how well psyllium husk powder works. So psyllium husk powder, if you add it to things, it will gel very quickly. So as an example, if you add a little bit of this powder to oatmeal, the oatmeal will gel. It'll take a completely different consistency, and that usually turns people off. So if you use psyllium husk powder, what I would recommend is you can have anywhere between about 1 to 3 tablespoons a day, but depending on what you're putting it in, maybe start with 1 or 2 teaspoons, just so it doesn't really change the manner of whatever food or beverage you're putting in it. Now, I do like to put some in oatmeal, although I only put about a teaspoon per bowl because it can really gummify and gel. Another really good way to use psyllium husk powder is to put in a smoothie. So especially if you like thicker smoothies, you can put, if you're making anywhere between a 30 to 40 ounce smoothie, you can actually put 1, maybe even 2 tablespoons of psyllium husk powder in there. Psyllium husk powder also goes really well in yogurt. So if you do like a yogurt parfait, plain Greek yogurt, some berries, maybe some granola or nuts or seeds, psyllium husk powder would go great in that. So again, that added benefit, that psyllium husk powder, it is a fiber. It will help that digestive system with constipation. Okay, now back to the original question. So I gave you some tips how to reduce constipation, but during travel, it's tricky. And this is why we see more constipation happen, because you're off of your routine. So that's the biggest thing that I recommend is try as much as you can to stay on the same eating and drinking routine. So if you normally have, let's say, a cup of coffee at 6 o'clock in the morning, wherever you're at, try to have a cup of coffee at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? And try to have the food coming into your body about the normal times. And speaking about food, if you could try your best to have the same types of food. So the digestive system doesn't really like a lot of changes. And that's often why we see a lot of constipation while we travel. In addition to just being more compacted. So if you're traveling like international on a flight, just that compacted seating position will also increase the risk for constipation. So all of that said, when you're traveling, stay on a routine with your fluids and food. I didn't mention caffeine. You can certainly use caffeine to help things move through the systems. For a lot of athletes, caffeine really helps trigger bowel movements, which could help constipation. So if you are not consuming caffeine, things like coffee or maybe a stronger tea, and you are constipated, maybe consider that. When you're traveling, also try to stay hydrated. I always say try to carry 2 bottles with you, right? Why two? Well, you may lose one, you may forget one, right? But it also encourages you to drink more. You need to drink more fluids when you are traveling because of the just the different time zones, and you're just not in your routine, right? And then again, try to stay with as similar of foods as possible. So hopefully, Jared, this whole thing helps you reduce the incidence of constipation. Listen, athletes, if this happens to you, again, it's not a normal thing. Like it's normal to happen, but you don't want to have it happen too often. And certainly if it stays with you for more than a few days, please, please, please do something about it. But try to be proactive about it instead of reactive. So if you know you're going on a trip, you know you can start getting all these things together in terms of the fiber, the fluids, the routine, everything kind of set in one. Okay, thanks for listening to this Ask Energy.